Good evening. I'll call the September 9th Cedar Springs Public School Board meeting to order. It's now 6:45, and if you would rise for me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and if we can have a roll call, please, Secretary Slater.
Yes, trustee Bowser. Here. Trustee Patton. Here. Trustee Vanderhyde.
Here.
Treasurer Gilmore.
Here.
Secretary Slager. Here. Vice President Schaffner.
Here.
President Reed.
Here, and we have established a quorum for tonight's meeting. We'll move on to the adoption of the agenda, and I would entertain a motion for as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Having none, Vice President Schaffner,
Yes.
Secretary Slager,
Yes.
Treasurer Gilmore.
Yes.
Trustee Vanderhyde.
Yes.
April, Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Trustee Bowser.
Yes.
President Reed. Yes. Motion carries. And that brings us to gratitudes. Open the tables.
I'm grateful that kids are back in school and my son is doing well this year and he just got the part in the play. He's playing Jim. He has a love interest.
Oh,
That's not his girlfriend, so that'll be interesting.
what's the play?
It's one stop, one light town, one stoplight
Oh.
town. Is that, I think that's what it's called? It's something like that. It's an ensemble cast, so. Okay, yeah.
Just a shout out to high school teachers. I heard from a previous student just how well prepared he felt in his college classes and just particularly some of the content from his AP courses. Yeah, just really felt just very thankful for his education at Cedar Springs. So it's good.
Throw out there that we live in a very unique district and we have a lot of support from families, and it's really neat to see. I know we have the athletic boosters meeting right next door, which I almost walked into, so thankful for them, but yeah, just we have a lot of different programs for kids, and including after school. I'm thinking of like Getty at middle school. They do a great job, and yeah, just really grateful for where we're living and how involved the parents are.
Thank you. And I heard that the lights were spectacular at the game. It was a lot of fun, nice comments, so.
That was really cool.
I'm grateful for the, just the patience that, has blanketed the launch of our school year. And with as many disruptions as we've had between construction on, on pass-through roads to, a quick adapt and having to close a road while we ran a gas line to losing power and then having to cancel school the next day. People have been so gracious. I've not gotten any frustrated phone calls. There have been times when I thought, is my phone broken? But it does work. It's been remarkable, so just the patience and the support and let's make it happen from the staff to our parents. It's really been an incredibly smooth launch. And I'm also grateful, every Monday morning at 8:30, we meet as a central office admin team. So Marty, myself, Ron, Dan, and Stacy, just kind of huddle for a quick second to really kind of plot out the week, make sure that we're all on the same page with things. And I was very grateful for the frequency of disruption that we had today, as little people kept looking in the window and waving at us and making faces, because it was the launch of preschool. So today is officially the day that all of our students are on campus. So it was awesome. So yeah, it's been a remarkable start. I can't even explain it.
I'd like to piggyback off that, just we had an article, what was it, News 8, where on the heat day where we didn't, for beach, you
Oh.
utilize the 7 classrooms or whatever, and so that was very nice, and
Yeah, it was cool having kids and it was so seamless. They just kept bouncing over and we did testing at Red Hawk, all day on both the Wednesday and the Friday, I think, or Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know, it's all blurred. Maybe it's Tuesday, Thursday, but anyway, yeah, it's just making good use of the resources and,
adapting.
you know, and Vic and his team for creating cooler or chiller zones at beach with some portable air conditioning units, and it's really been an all hands on deck approach, and it's been remarkably smooth. So we're grateful.
Okay. Thank you. All good news. And high school representatives, we don't have any with us now. And consent items, I would entertain a motion for as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Vice President Schaffner. Yes. Secretary Slager.
Yes.
Treasurer Gilmore.
Yes.
Trustee Vanderhyde.
Yes.
Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Trustee Bowser.
Yes.
President Reed. Yes, motion carries. That brings us to discussion, and first up, we have financial update with Monty.
All right, so, last board meeting, I presented the general fund budget to actual. I told you, it was showing a deficit. I said, don't worry, it's not where we will end up. So the general fund year to date, as of September 9th, is significantly different than what we saw back in August. We are currently looking at adding about $1.7 million to fund balance. So we are coming in better than our final budget amendment. I was projecting that we would come in stronger than that on our expenditure side. Revenues are, looks like we're about $60,000 better than the final amendment. So really that change in the add to fund balance really does relate to coming under on primarily purchase services and supplies. And included in supplies would be utility costs. So Cedar Springs has been consistently adding to fund balance since the 17-18 school year. And there was a really kind of a pretty significant jump in the amount that we have been adding, starting with the 19-20 school year. That is when COVID funding was introduced, and we have been adding since then. Kind of taking a look at the revenues that just some of the what I would deem one-time revenues. We've got about $1.2 million of COVID or ESSER related funding that's included in our total revenue. $375,000 of enrollment stabilization, $509 for the Section 22 transportation funding, and about $300,000 in total for Section 27K and 23G. So about a total of $2.36 million of what would be considered kind of either one-time or temporary related funding. So we do have a very healthy fund balance. We should start considering some strategic ways to spend it down, but it is also, like I said, we want to be strategic because the funding that we've been experiencing over the last 4 or 5 years, I do not anticipate that to continue down the road. With the 24-25 school aid budget that has been passed, right now it's being projected that there will be a $30.8 million fund balance in the school aid budget, or school aid fund. That is a 0.1% fund balance. So that's down from 2.2 billion 3 years ago. So the level of funding that has been flowing through to local districts, I do not anticipate it to continue. So, but one thing that I would like the board to consider in the future is potentially setting up a capital projects fund. So we've been blessed to have the bonds over the last 4 years to really, take care of our infrastructure facility needs. Prior to that, we've also had a sinking fund. As you know, that did not renew. Our sinking fund expired in, I believe, 2021. So we have not levied any additional sinking fund revenues since then. We currently do have a healthy balance there of a little over, about 1.9 million. But, so the district is in great shape, but we do have some significant expenditures coming down the road. The major one that we're forecasting out within the next 4 years would be replacing the field turf at the high school stadium. That's an estimated $1 million project. So a capital project fund would allow us to transfer some general fund dollars into this capital projects fund so that it's not one big hit in the 26, 29, or 28, 29 school year, or 29, 30 school year. It's kind of, we're funding it a little bit in advance as we go.
What is the life of that turf?
You generally get, I believe, 12 to 15 years.
It's not been 12 to 15
No,
years.
we're not even close.
And my kids were in marching band when it was put down.
We put in 2016 and 17. That they're just looking ahead because last time when it all happened, I wasn't here, but it was quite to do to replace the turf after we spread it.
Right.
People get hurt. It's horrible. So you don't have maintenance of the field. It's not turf, regular grass. So you have to have money put away to make this turf still be there every 15 years. So 15 years might be okay for the new turf. Every decade, everything is a little better. So yeah, you have to be prepared at that point. And it may not be ready at 15 or 12 years, but right now it's doing really well. So we have companies that come in and verify strands. You don't notice it, but they do pressure tests on the strands, and they give us recommendations where we're at. So we're okay right now, but we need to be prepared and not the year of. It has to happen way ahead of its coming. So
Curiosity question, the turf before had to be watered and all that kind of stuff. Does this have to have any of that weird taking care of stuff, or is it just rolled
no,
up
we just
good?
groom it, and then every year we have a company come in and they disinfect, they take all pellets out, and then they respread it, and so then it's fully spread through the whole turf system again. If you would have noticed, you're involved with the athletics and, years going into 2018, heavy rain, you'd see piles of the rubber pellets all the way around the track. And now that this company comes in and takes care of us, we don't have that. The trenches aren't full. It's a lot better, The room, Ken Simon bought a room to take care of it years ago. And we drag it, every couple of weeks, try not to, overdo it, but it renews it, brings the rubber to the top. It looks so nice when it's game day, and especially like red plants coming, when you spruce it up with red plant, they all look at it and say, wow, so, it's good. So.
Thank you. Sorry, I apologize for the rabbit trail.
Every fall I have piles of it all around my house, so
Yeah.
they can come get some from my house.
Yes.
I've been hounding, administration about, instead of like the lights that we just did, the lights will way past the time, and if we're proactive instead of reactive, it's gonna be a lot nicer on everybody when they, oh, we have the money to take care of it, so. I'm hoping that we can do it.
Yes. Capital plan away.
All right, and then Scott and I will be working with the cabinet level team to kind of put our heads together of some strategic, sustainable ways to utilize our current fund balance. And hopefully bring some concepts to you for the October board meeting.
No, that makes good sense. Thank you.
Final thing to mention, as of last Thursday, enrollment is looking we are still down, but not as down as we projected. So we are currently, if it holds, which we still have a long ways to go to count, will be 38 FTEs higher than what I used for our budget projections. So that would be definitely a blessing.
As far as spending down the fund balance, is there a reason we have to do that? Is it similar to what they've done? What they have to do in the food service where we have to spend it down, or can we just? I mean, it's there to help us as declining enrollment.
There's no legal requirement to spend it down as there is in food service. But generally speaking, you don't want it to get too large. You know, the money is there to be invested in the school system, so, but you have to be strategic so you don't incur a fixed legacy cost going forward that you'll be paying forever with money that's temporary in nature. So you have to be strategic on how to go about using it.
And then just a question, the advantage behind creating a capital fund versus using just sinking fund dollars, is that?
Well, the sinking fund right now is the only revenue that we're generating is interest income. So there is no, we're not levying any additional taxes. So what we have today is essentially what we'll have, you know, as we spend it, it will eventually go down to zero. So a sinking fund is a type of capital projects fund. This is what would like us to discuss is essentially doing a self-funded capital projects fund. So the board is committing those funds to say, all right, we know we have a future capital project. We're going to set aside some general fund dollars. And it's kind of a formal act of recognizing, hey, in 4, 5, 6 years, we do know we have to replace that turf. So let's start kind of saving for that now.
So if you were to do, just as an example, so that's the turf account, say, you know, for future 15, you know, for 15-year expected life. So if we were gonna do a project like bathrooms at the baseball fields or something, would you do a separate capital project, or you just lump it in there to that same?
It would all be in one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing I like about the fund is the planning that goes along with it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
I
I
think-
went a little bit longer.
So sorry, one word of caution, you want to be careful on, so to not replace the turf would create a deficiency in a current asset. That's one thing to use savings for. It's another thing to use savings to go acquire new assets.
Mhm.
So we want to be very mindful of how we're utilizing those dollars. Because once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah, and a new asset creates some maintenance, right, if future expenses, so
Yeah, and the capital projects fund does not cover maintenance, you know, it's. General maintenance needs to stay in the general fund. But the acquisition of land, building new property, renovations could come out of that capital projects fund.
You gotta leave it open.
It's not closed all the way.
It's closed too much. You gotta leave it all the way.
Much,
The Open Meetings Act brings back. Thank you, though.
And there will be a time, hopefully in the next 5 to 7 years, 7 to 10 years, where we have to go back to our voters for a millage for additional facilities, because we're back on the track of growing as a community again.
Yep.
You know, and that's when you would put, things like bathrooms or, you know, really enhancing that baseball softball complex. You know, we're gonna be able to, so a perfect example, we could build facilities at the baseball softball complex, or we could replace the tennis courts, which are in bad need of attention.
Hmm.
So fix a current asset or add a new asset, then it's just something you've got to lay out.
Yep, if you don't have any questions, I'm all set.
Very good. All right. Okay, so if it pleases the board, I see some high school representatives here. If we want to invite them to update us, did you have a little blurb? You want to update us what's going on?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
So something I want to update you on is homecoming. We've been working on that. The seniors are working on planning that, but the themes of year are lost civilization. So the seniors are doing ancient Greece. The us juniors are doing Atlantis, like the lost city of Atlantis. Sophomores are doing Vikings, and freshmen are doing ancient Europe. And then Miss Kelly did make t-shirts, and those are selling for $10 to help bring up the Red Hot Pride. Tickets are on sale, have been on sale, they're on sale for the rest of the week. We've also been working on Powder Puff. We have it's on
The game. The game is the 18th, that's
okay,
6.
yeah. I was told to tell you that we hope to see you there. The practices have been going well so far. We've had all of the juniors show up. To the first 2 practices. Well, most of them showed up to the first one and then all of them showed up to the second. But seniors are straggling a little bit, but we're trying to get them pulled in more.
And so the t-shirts, we're hoping to bring that along with Finally Friday. So we're using that to bring up the Hog Pride as well. It's where we usually have anyone, we try and get most of the schools to wear something of Red Hog Pride. And then we call some, like one from each class down. And if you're wearing Red Hog Pride, you get a prize. And then the last thing we wanted to update you on is looking into the future for October 26th. We are working on a Red Hawk Closet fundraiser with the first Harvest Festival. And so that's gonna be, it should be by the, where Willett does the corn maze for FFA, where he does that for the second graders. More details to come as we work that out, of course. And then juniors are already working on prom. We picked our venue, right?
Yeah, we have the venue. I think we decided on the theme. The theme isn't confirmed yet, but the venue is gonna be at Frederick Meyer Gardens. Yeah. And then sophomores are already discussing, snow cone themes for February. So, moving along quite nicely so far. We need anything else? We're still trying to decide on the theme, but we come up with good ideas.
You guys have any questions of what we've been working on so far?
How did you come up with the theme for homecoming? It's unique. I mean, I like it. It's
I
unique.
don't know, the seniors were the ones who planned homecoming, so they came up with the theme. I know we had one similar to it, but it was more expansive. It was more like, Rome and Paris. So this one's a little bit more narrow.
Oh,
Very nice. Good detailed planning. I see event planning in your future. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You
Have a
too.
good rest of your meeting.
Okay, moving on to the call for the 2024 MASB delegates.
So this is an item in which we need some action for the evening. It's an annual event. Determining what member of the board would be representing Cedar Springs Public Schools at their fall conference in October.
If memory serves me correctly, Mr. Schaffner volunteered.
I'd like to nominate Matt.
I'll second that.
I'll third that.
I could be a backup.
You'll have your chance here in a minute.
Yeah, action, okay, all right.
We'll wait till then.
We'll wait till then.
Don't be too eager.
All right,
Oh, happy to go.
okay, thank you. Alrighty, moving on to spring, summer 2024 Neola policy updates.
So, we've been looking at this content for a couple of meetings now. The one addition or one, update that I did make in this, language that's attached to the agenda tonight, specifically around policy 2414, the reproductive health and family planning, and then 2418, sex education. The reason both of those policies were included in the update this time was to reflect a change in the law. The law previously required districts to have language that would clarify that staff members were not allowed to reference abortion or supporting a student, assisting a student in obtaining an abortion. So that law passed or is no longer in effect. So that language is an option for districts to have in their policy portfolio. And so the original draft, as you saw it, that came from Neola, stricken that language from the policy. I included the language that we originally had in regard to that. So our policy language would continue to, as presented, would continue to prohibit staff members from referring the student for an abortion or assisting the student in obtaining the abortion. So that's really up to the board. You can accept just the recommended changes down in paragraph 4 for policy 2414, and that's really just to clean up the language as it's currently written. And then the language in 2418, the same thing with in regard to sex education. The proposed changes really are just intended to clean up the language that is existing. Currently, it does not change any of the language that we currently have. So wondering if there were any other questions about these proposed.
This will be an unpopular opinion in here probably, but I would be for taking that language out. I think it's an overreach on our part. And sometimes school is the only place where students can find that adult that can help them. But I realized that I'm probably in the minority with that, but I wanted to say it out loud.
So from personal experience, I think the school carries out students idolize what might be said by a teacher, and I wouldn't have a nephew if things 30-some years ago had went a certain way that a counselor had counseled my sister. So that, for my reason, that's why I'm for it, because of the higher standard that students would look to, and then it's taken away from the family.
I think also it could, strike some lawsuits against the school if we were to impose those ideas. I know there would be parents who would certainly be unhappy if a teacher suggested such a thing.
Like, this language was not in our policy, what, 5 years ago? Whenever the law, I mean, this was not always in there. And I don't think that any teacher is gonna come out, well, I guess I can't know for sure, but I think the vast majority of teachers aren't gonna be like, you should do this. I think it's more of a, I don't think necessarily they should encourage it, but I think to penalize them for trying to help if the student asks for their help. That's where I'm at. But I understand where you guys are coming from as well.
So all of these policies are on for action tonight. Is there any other, we've talked about a few of them. Is there any other thoughts or discussion we might want to have now? Before we get to the action portion. we'll keep moving forward then. Thank you for everybody for sharing your heart. All right, so we are up to the overnight trip requests, and Scott has those.
So there are 3 requests before you tonight. The first 2 were also seeking action this evening. The third, the East Coast trip information for our 8th graders, we're not seeking action this evening. So that one's simply up for discussion. The choir overnight trip is a request for a weekend in November. Students would leave after school on the Friday, overnight Saturday, and then come back on Sunday. And that information is detailed in the request. The second is for the varsity and junior varsity football team to travel up to Sault Ste. Marie, October 5, spending the night October 5, and then playing a contest on Saturday, October 6th. I was looking for a more detailed packet coming from, I just expected a detailed packet coming from the athletic field trip. I was reminded that our practice is not to get into the level of detail for athletic trips as we do for our other trips. And so, you know, that raised question for me, is that something that we would want moving forward? So for example, when bowling competes on the east side of the state for the state playoffs, you know, we don't do a detailed trip request. We don't clarify, the board is not asked to approve the lodging accommodations. They're not asked to approve the transportation arrangements, those types of things. And so it just made me wonder, is that something that we want to provide more information for the board moving forward as you're approving the trip? Do you want a few more details about the trip that you're approving? But that doesn't necessarily impact where we are tonight. Tonight, I don't have details for you, and they play before we meet formally again, but we could have a special meeting if that was the board's wishes. And then the East Coast trip, the third piece is just their request packet that they filled out. So it details costs, dates, those types of things. And I would anticipate a member of the planning team being here at our next meeting in October to answer any questions that you may have about that trip before taking any action to approve or deny it.
I think all groups should be held to the same standard. Does that mean more detail from athletics or less detail from everyone else? I don't know. But I think if we're expecting it of one group, we should expect it of another group, personally, moving forward.
So I just have a wondering, when we send groups to places, maybe I'm thinking like the East Coast trip or somewhere else, we go through a travel agency a lot of times, and so we get a review of what the itinerary is. When we go through a sports trip, it's a different process, right? We're not using a third party. Is that, how does that process work for, because they may be two, in my mind, not to disagree, but they might be two different things, because you're dealing with a third party versus if we're doing it internally, maybe would require different levels of oversight. So can you walk us through kind of how are we selecting accommodations for sports?
So I don't know the specifics of how they clarify accommodations other than Dana, you know, usually Matt would say to Dana, hey, we need hotel accommodations for 4 bowlers who are gonna be going to the, state tournament next week. And so unfortunately, the timing of those types of contests, you don't know that you're going to be participating, until the week before when you win at the regional level and now you've made it to the state level. And so I see how it is a little bit of a unique, it's an anomaly of sorts. In this case, with taking that many athletes to the Sioux, it's just a more robust process. They have to make, arrangements for, 60 athletes and coaches Typically you would work with the host school and they would help make accommodations. Oftentimes they'll help make accommodations for meals. You know, they know that it's a K-12 school visiting another K-12 school, and so, you know, there might be booster parents at the receiving school that would help, you know, welcome our team in, just as we would for their team, and so it's a much different experience. The purpose, the itinerary for the trip is just to go play the game and then come home. They don't do a lot of additional travel typically.
Do we usually follow, and this is just a question, not one side or the other, just information. Do we ask for additional chaperones when the coaches are taking large teams out, or what, do we have a student to adult ratio like we do for some of these other trips, or no?
Yeah, we would follow the same ratio that we would follow at minimum for our coaches. You know, our coaches take students off campus on a regular basis. It's when the overnight trip comes in is when we would have a higher ratio of coaches per student. I don't know that number right off the top of my head
No, yeah.
that we go for as a guide. In this, on this request, they listed 10 coaches and 60 athletes. So it's a 6-to-1 ratio.
So they did turn in some type of a format, like, how do we know what their budget is, or how, I mean, like, if they're filling out a form for an administrative guideline, even if it doesn't come here?
Right, that's information I don't have at this point in time.
I have a question, and because I've had many people reach out to me, because I mean, obviously, we're very community driven, but we're also football driven. Who made the decision to do this on Red Flannel Weekend?
Yeah.
Like, was that brought up to Mr. Moffett, or like, is there a way we could possibly just highly suggest that maybe next year we don't do that? Because a lot of families are torn, now they gotta go. I mean, you know what I'm,
Yeah, I was not part of that decision this year. I have directed Mr. Moffett that any contest beyond 50 miles, 50-mile radius of Cedar Springs is to be reviewed by me before they enter into a contract in the future.
thank you. Because that's just,
And I did that in writing.
yeah, it's just a lot of people are upset because it's, I mean,
I've
it's
taken
Red
the
Flannel.
field myself.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like just nationally, I mean, anyways, but okay, all right, I appreciate that, thank you.
Just for discussion, I mean, I generally agree with Shannon. I mean, I think there should be consistent expectations for groups. Now, you bring up a very valid point, though, if it's a situation where, hey, we just won, but we just found out we're going.
Right.
So I don't know if there's a way, you know, even at the beginning of a season, just to seek approval. Maybe it's a simplified process for everyone, just kind of hitting the, you know, we don't need anything lengthy, just the highlights of where they're going, how many students, yeah, what's the ratio, you know, just making sure we know the most important information. And then that would be something relatively simple that a coach could ask for approval,
Yeah.
you know, pending they win, you know,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
that sort of thing.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, just a thought.
So I think we're hearing, yes, we would appreciate more policy follow-up and the numbers on the table. So you have them, so we know if we're in budget, out of budget, or, you know, what do we do?
Mhm.
Perfect.
Because if let's be frank, if something goes south, and then, then we'll be back to the policy, or what did it say? Did we do it? Did we enforce it? And then it'll be the whole thing, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, and our last discussion item, 24-25 annual superintendent evaluation performance goals. That has information for us.
Yeah, so included in your packet, one of the revisions to the law that took effect August 1st, 2024, was for the board and the superintendent to sit down and go through a more formalized process of establishing goals for the upcoming school year. So this is one step in our process. We'll do a mid-year review of progress towards those goals as a second step in the process, and then the third step in the process, in addition to ongoing communication and feedback throughout the year, is to complete the final evaluation at the end of the cycle. So as I looked at the planning for my goals and the information that I was sharing with you this evening to just help you identify some focal points for my attention this year, I really looked at four things, in terms of what drives my work on a daily basis. And so if you look on page 2 of the information that's shared, really, one set is just my personal moral compass as a leader. What do I do when my feet hit the floor every morning? Other than hope to not kick the dog. So one is just my own personal thing. The second is a strategic look, and for that, we look at our flight plan 2.0 for that work. Then I think it's always critical for us to be connected with the goals and the work that's happening at the building level. To be connected with the goals and the work that's happening at the grade level, and to be connected directly to the goals and the work that's being done at the classroom level. And in order to do that, really it's embracing the MyKIP goals that we've centered our focus on as a district. So MyKIP stands for Michigan Continuous Improvement Plan. It's something that Cedar Springs Public Schools and every public school district across the state contributes to. It's their regular cycle of school improvement. And so to me, my work has to be aligned with that work of the MyKIP team. And then last is just that collection of organizational and business goals, things that may not be directly linked to student achievement, may not be directly linked to our strategic plan because it's more the day-to-day operational body of work that we do. So really, those are the four things that my recommendation is that we look at as we establish some goals for the year. So first, when my feet hit the floor every morning, I really look for the promise that exists around me. So it's the promise in people, it's the promise of opportunities that we have to enhance our academic program. It's the promise that we have to enhance the social and emotional supports that we provide our students. It's the promise that we have to make adjustments, make changes to enrich our campus and our facilities. I continuously remind myself and members of the team, it's not about the facilities, it's about the experience of the people when they use the facilities. That's what makes a real a level of success. When you've got people who are having positive experiences in the spaces that we have available to us, that means we're doing the right things from a facilities perspective. So then the next one is, so first is looking for promise. Second is really creating those conditions in which the people of Cedar Springs Public Schools, but also the district itself can thrive. And really be anchored to not just, don't just survive, but let's succeed. Let's take it to a next level. And so that's something that I'm dedicated to. I'm always looking back while I'm simultaneously looking forward. So I'm looking back the last 24 hours. How can we be better tomorrow than we were today? How can we be better next week compared to what we were this week? How can we be better in 6 months than we were 6 months ago? How can we be better in a year than we were a year ago? And so that's just a constant nagging voice that's in my thinking. Give grace with abundance, because I need to receive grace with abundance, because none of us are perfect and we all make mistakes. And so one of a very good lesson in life is not only to be able to give grace, but also to be able to receive it, because when you receive grace, you demonstrate to others that you too are human and you too are going to make mistakes and you too need some people to acknowledge that, yep, that was a mistake. How can we get better? What can we learn from that? And then the last thing is just to continuously build upon the capacity and the effectiveness of our team and of our systems. You know, so those are 5 simple things that I do every day. So when we look at our strategic plan, that's the flight crew piece. My recommendation this year, you know, each year when we look at those designated areas of focus, you know, if you think back to 2019, 2020, the first year when we launched our strategic plan, I think we had 7 growth opportunities under academic and student services. We had 6 or 7 in engagement. We had 6 or 7 in operations. Then we whittled those down to this year. I'm proposing that we whittle them down even farther, but we're 3 years into our strategic planning cycle, and so we should be narrowing the focus as we continue to grow. So my recommendation is under academic and student services, we have 4 areas of focus this year. One is to increase student achievement. That's number 1 at all times. To continue to focus on differentiating the experiences for our students. So whether that's, you know, academic experiences, whether it's social emotional experiences, how can we differentiate those experiences to best meet the needs of those individuals in our district? That's critical. And then integrate that continuous system of supports for not only academic support, but also the social and emotional piece, because that's a critical aspect of our work. And then one thing that I added as a 4th piece for academic and student services, we've made solid decisions in regard to the curriculum and the materials that we're using on a regular basis in the classroom over the last 3 years. We don't need to add new things to the table in 24, 25. What we really need to do is work hard to deepen the level of assurance that those 2 tools are being used with fidelity, that our teachers have the right training that they need. We also need to be mindful that maybe there are small adjustments that can be made to enhance the utilization of the tools that we have. But we're not in a place where we need to do a wholesale change. So my recommendation is we really be committed to the mission, and then stick to the work that we've established over the last 3 years, and continue to move that forward. To me, that's where we need to go as a district from an academic and a student services perspective. So it's not about getting new things, it's about really deepening the impact of the current things that we're doing. So that's under academic and student services. Under engagement, for me, the recommendation that I have is to really narrow that focus down to 3 things. So in the growth opportunities box under engagement, to me, it's about really capitalizing on those win-win benefits, those relationships that we have, whether that be within the district, with other districts, within the community, from classroom to classroom. Let's just really focus in on leaning into each other, being collaborative, being synergistic. That's how we're going to get the biggest return on investment long term. So it's working together. I think it's very important for us to continue to celebrate with staff. It's important to celebrate and model the positive things that are happening across campus and across our community. And so we can't continue to just make gains without celebrating the good things that are happening. And so to me, that's an important piece to continue to remember. And then the 3rd piece for engagement is just continuing to support equitable solutions, to be mindful of the fact that not all problems, not all challenges, not all people need the same remedy. They don't all need the same solution. So being creative, being thoughtful, and being mindful that we can do things differently. It's all about getting everyone across the finish line and just knowing that some people are going to be at a different pace, but we still have to get them across the line. So it's about being equitably minded as we look for solutions and programs and opportunities to support our students. And then around operations, my recommendation is that we narrow our focus to 3 areas again. So the first is continuing to focus on enhancing safety and security, both from our facilities perspective and also from our protocols. The second is that continue to be strategic in how we allocate our resources to get a maximized return on investment. You know, everything we do, every second of life we have, every square inch of space that we have, every thought that we have in terms of creativity, we've got to maximize the impact of that resource. So to me, that's a very important thing for us to continue to focus on. And then the third one for me, that would be the high point of operations, is just to enhance that human experience. So, whether it's enhancing the customer's experience, whether it's enhancing the student's experience, whether it's enhancing our team members' experience, that's where we will get the best return on investment. So just being mindful of what's the experience that people are having, and do everything we can to enhance that. So my recommendation is that we go down to 4 areas of focus in academic and student services. We go to 3 areas of focus in engagement, and then we go for 3 areas of focus in operations. Any questions on any of those things yet? Okay. Our MyKIP goals, we have 3 MyKIP goals. So down on page 7, we have a MTSS goal around reading for pre-K through 5. We also have a secondary literacy goal. And then the third goal that we have is to improve in achievement in mathematics pre-K through 12. So those are really big, really overarching goals, but they should be. That's the district's improvement plan. The goal is, the strategy is, each individual classroom then is doing their little part to help make those goals attainable. So the MTSS reading goal is it's a robust goal. The goal is for 80% of all pre-K through 5th grade students. They're testing above benchmark on Acadians by the spring of 2026. We're not there yet, but that's part of a long-term strategic mission. And so we want at least at minimum 80% of all of our students at grade level on the Acadians benchmark test by spring of 2026. The second goal is around the secondary literacy goal, and that's a minimum of 85% of our students, grades 6th through 12th grade, will reach grade level proficiency on the iReady as measured by the iReady test, and then also SAT and PSAT data points for our students in grades 9 through 12. So it's a robust target and it's measurable using iReady and the PSAT, SAT tests. And then the last piece is around improving academic achievement in pre-K mathematics. And again, the minimum of 80% of our students will be at or above benchmark for math using local benchmark assessments. So benchmark assessments that we have currently in place within our district, like iReady testing for students in grades K-8, universal screener for number sense, which is a test, that we use with our students pre-K through grade 6. And then again, leaning into the PSAT, SAT test for our students in grades 9 through 12. So those are the, that goal is a target date of 2028 to achieve on the math test or on the math goal. So those are the 3 big picture MyKIP goals. And then the last piece, just as far as you know, the organizational and business side of the work that we do, because these are very complex jobs. One is, you know, going back and working at, you know, each and every day to enhance the safety and security on our campus for our students, for our staff, and for our guests at all times. The second one is just being incredibly mindful in being responsible in terms of the expenditure of resources for our people, our time, and our money. To continuously look for ways to enhance communication across the district. And then the last thing is just, you know, to bring the bond projects home and bring them home on time and under budget. So that's some big things, you know, some big circles, some big buckets, to me that, really, are the areas that I need to be focused on, as your superintendent, but I'm wide open to listening to any thoughts that you may have or additions to this, if I've missed anything.
So just a question, you said the math was by 2028? Okay. So if this was an annual performance review, is there a glide path? So you'd be looking for a 1% improvement or 2%? Like, how are we gonna measure success in that 1 year?
Yeah, so that one we would be looking at just improvement. Are we making gains towards that, you know, that ultimate objective? And I can tell you that we're not making gains fast enough.
Yeah.
Which makes me bonkers. But we're humans and we're dealing with humans, and if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? You know?
Yeah, I mean, it is complex, like you said. I mean, it is a big job, and I think there are so many areas that you could focus on, and you just literally, it's impossible to have too many focus areas. That's why it's a focus area. So I mean, I appreciate the thought put into this. I think I'm just acknowledging the challenge in it because, you know, sometimes by choosing a focus area, it feels like you have to set aside some really good, also necessary things.
Right.
But in order to actually move forward, you have to pick something to prioritize. So I just am affirming and acknowledging the difficulty in naming these and bringing it to focus, but I didn't have any questions.
No questions. Thank you for throwing this on there, Ed.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate kind of the thought that you put into this. So I, like Tracy, acknowledge the difficulty of selecting with so much out there in the district. You know, how do we prioritize and have those things come to the top? And I think the pieces that you have in there, they make a lot of sense. We want to be student driven and focused, and I think almost, yeah, pretty much all of your selections there kind of like that in every way. So thanks.
It really is pretty simple at the end of the day, you know, and that's just creating conditions. Period. It's simple.
Yeah, and you can see your heart for student success in these goals and objectives. It's very clear. So it comes across loud and clear, Scott. We certainly love your heart that you have for the district and for our students and for their success. So thank you for sharing your heart with us here. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move forward to public comments, and do we see or hearing anyone have public comment? No,
You're the publisher.
Yes,
anyone time?
Seeing none, we will close public comments. We'll move on to our action items for tonight. First up, we have the call for the 2024 MASB delegates, and I would entertain a motion.
I would move that I be the delegate and Misty Bowser be the alternate.
I second that. Yeah, or
Or
somebody does.
Whoever wants.
Yeah.
We all support it.
Okay, any discussion? Having none, Vice President Schaffner?
Yes,
Secretary Slager?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilmore?
Yes,
Trustee Vanderhyde?
Yes,
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Bowser?
Yes.
President Reed, yes, motion carries. Action item, overnight trip request for the Chamber Choir Retreat. I would entertain a motion for as presented.
I
So
move.
moved.
Support.
Any discussion? I'll just note that, thank you that they turned in their complete sheet for us to review. Okay. Vice President Schaffner?
yes,
Secretary Slager?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilmore?
yes,
Trustee Vanderhyde?
Yes,
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Bowser?
Yes.
President Reed, yes, motion carries. Next, we have the overnight trip request, varsity and junior varsity football trip to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I would entertain a motion for as presented.
I would move that we allow the trip.
second,
Discussion?
So noting that obviously the things we already talked about, having hopefully some more information that we can do next time, but recognizing the shortness of time and I've heard a lot of things planned out already, so comfortable with moving forward with this one, but hopefully next one we'll get some more. But
yeah, and thank you for Scott for bringing the coaches to player ratios and stuff for us, so we had some information for tonight, thank you.
Okay. Having no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. Vice President Schaffner?
yes,
Secretary Slager?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilmore?
Yes,
Trustee Vanderhyde?
yes,
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Bowser?
Yes.
President Reed, yes, motion carries. Then we have before us the spring and summer 2024 Neola policy updates. Individual or plural?
let's do them whole, except can we pull out 2414 and 2418? And vote on those
Yes.
together separately
D2
from
and
the others.
D3, right, Shannon?
I'm sorry?
D2 and D3.
Correct.
2414,
Yes.
2418.
Okay.
I move that we accept D1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as presented.
Support.
Any discussion? Having none, Vice President Schaffner?
Yes,
Secretary Slager?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilmore?
yes,
Trustee Vanderhyde?
Yes,
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Bowser?
Yes.
President Reed, yes, motion carries.
I move that we accept D2, policy 2414, reproductive health and family planning as presented, keeping the language similar to what we currently have.
Support.
Any discussion? Having none, Vice President Schaffner?
Yes,
Secretary Slager?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilmore?
yes,
Trustee Vanderhyde?
no,
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Bowser?
Yes.
President Reed? Yes, motion carries.
I would move D3, policy 2418, sex education, be as presented.
support,
Any discussion? Having none, Vice President Schaffner?
Yes,
Secretary Slager?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilmore?
yes,
Trustee Vanderhyde?
no,
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Bowser?
Yes.
President Reed? Yes, motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for your dialogue. Okay. That's an action, okay. Moving on to communication for the Board of Education. I don't have anything additional to share. You're up to date. And turn it over to you.
I have actually two items. One, and I'll link these into the agenda for your future access. One is I received a letter from MSBO acknowledging Marty Sullivan's accomplishments in achieving their chief financial officer status. So congratulations to Marty for all the additional learning. We also received a letter from the community building development team inviting members of the Board of Education to a splash in the heart of Cedar Springs Gala that they're having on September 21st. So I'll pass that information along. 20,
Yeah.
Homecoming's the 21st Saturday.
That's probably, it's
hold
right
on.
around there, but check
Building
it.
a dramatic pause. It is, it's Saturday the 21st. Doors open at 6:30, but I'll share with you that invitation as well. They just wanted me to,
There's an RSVP on it too, so just
They asked that
watch
I-
for that, yeah.
they asked that I pass that along
Yeah.
to you and the other members of the board. So those were the only two items of communication that I received.
Just a curiosity, what does the NSBO stand for?
Is Michigan School Business Officials.
It's unfortunate that it's BO.
I know.
It's not pleasant.
Yeah. Okay, so for planning, our next official board meeting is October 14th. We might have a reinstatement meeting. Tracy and I will be up to bat. If not, I'm coming other people's way. So we'll see how that goes. It's.
Day after Beetlejuice.
And what?
It's the day after Beetlejuice, the musical.
And having you.
Oh, I did have a
Yep.
list of district events in, so that's kind of
Oh, yeah.
an annual, it's a collection of all the
It's
things
too big.
that are on the docket, so hopefully that will serve you well. I
Thank
used it
you.
to fill out my
Yes.
calendar. Amy McCarthy has done a great job working with individual buildings to make sure that we're getting things that are happening at the building level there for a shared document. So it takes a lot of energy, but well worth it. And then the other thing is just, we did move the date of our tour of beach to October 14. So we'll meet, if you're interested in touring the building, we'll meet over there at 5:30. And do a walkthrough. The reason for the delay, they're making such incredible progress on the block that they're actually gonna be setting some steel and setting deck material down for the second floor. So by the time the 14th comes around of October, we should be in a good place and be able to not walk on dirt inside, but we'll be walking on concrete. And possibly having the opportunity to go up to the second level to take a look out of the turrets from the castle. So that's all I've got as well. So thank you.
Then, having no more business before the board tonight, we will stand adjourned at 7:54.